This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 1030, The 5 Biggest Myths About Saving Money by Erik Carter with financialfinesse.com. And I'm Dan, I'm your host, and welcome to Optimal Finance Daily, where I read to you every single day from some of the best personal finance blogs on the planet. And a happy Saturday to you. Thanks for listening in. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. And today I've got a post from Financial Finesse, as I mentioned. If you didn't know, we give away books on Instagram pretty frequently, so if you're not following us there yet, you can find us at Old Podcast. But for now, let's get to today's post as we optimize your life. The 5 Biggest Myths About Saving Money by Erik Carter with financialfinesse.com. When one of my colleagues recently sent me an article titled The 5 Biggest Myths About Saving Money According to a Millennial, I was intrigued. After all, it can be fun to bust myths, especially about something as important as saving money. And hearing a millennial perspective is interesting both because I might be one myself. I was born in 1979, and millennials are sometimes described as being born in the late 70s and other times in the early 80s, so maybe I'm actually something called an exennial. And because they or we are the future. The article features the views of Ethan Block, the 30-year-old founder of Digit, an online financial company. Here are the myths about saving that Block aims to correct. 1. It's important to get a job and start saving for retirement the minute you're out of college. Block argues that, quote, it's more important to spend time thinking about what you want to do and improving your earning potential, end quote. First of all, how are these things mutually exclusive? In fact, working at a job is one of the best ways to find that Venn diagram intersection between what you enjoy, what you're relatively good at, and what people will pay you. Actually doing a job can be very different than in theory, and getting that experience is not a bad way to improve your earning potential as well. There's also a good chance that what you really want to do may not involve having a job at all. Unless you plan to live in your parents' basement forever, that's what retirement allows you to do, and you'll probably have to save to make that happen. You can also think of saving for retirement as your plan B if your idea for plan A doesn't pan out exactly as you hope. 2. Getting a credit card right out of school is dangerous. Block compares getting a credit card with a low credit limit with training wheels. I actually agree with him on this one as long as you actually learn to ride the bike safely. In that case, a credit card can help you build a positive credit history. Just make sure you make on-time payments and try to pay the balance off in full. Otherwise, those training wheels can get expensive. 3. The American dream involves buying a house. Block points out that, quote, nowadays it often makes a lot more sense to rent than buy, end quote. And he adds, quote, people in their 20s don't have a lot of responsibilities, and that should be leveraged, end quote. Both of these statements may be true for you now, but if you plan to eventually settle down and have the responsibilities of a family, buying may come to make a lot more sense than renting, financially and or emotionally, and that should be leveraged too. Go ahead and rent while you're young and flexible, but take steps to protect and improve your credit and start saving for your down payment and closing costs. 4. Once you graduate, immediately try to build up a cash emergency fund. Block suggests that your 401k can be your emergency fund. Aside from the fact that it contradicts his comments on myth number 1, there are a few problems with this. To access the money while you're working, you can generally only borrow up to half of your vested account balance, up to $50K, or apply for a hardship withdrawal that you may not qualify for. The former has to be paid back from your paycheck, and the latter is subject to taxes and early withdrawal penalties. Both can make a financial emergency even worse. Your best bet is to have a bona fide emergency fund that's easily accessible to you when you need it. If saving for retirement is plan B, consider this plan C. I can understand not wanting to accumulate a lot of cash earning less than 1% though. Linked in this post are some ways to make your emergency fund work harder for you. 5. Investing is difficult and stocks are sexy. Block recommends you, quote, just put money in an index fund on a recurring basis and go back to living your life and you're done, end quote. He's right that investing isn't as complicated as it seems and that choosing a low-cost index fund that simply tracks the market is probably a better bet than buying a high-fee active mutual fund or trying to pick stocks on your own. However, our generational research indicates that millennials tend to have less investment knowledge than their older counterparts and may be more conservative as a result. You don't want to invest overly aggressively all in a stock index fund only to panic and sell out during the next inevitable market downturn. One option is to use a robo-advisor to help you put together a diversified portfolio of index funds that matches your comfort with risk. If you don't have access to one in your employer's retirement plan, see if your plan offers target date retirement funds. While the fees may be slightly higher than an index fund, unless you're fortunate enough to have access to target date funds that are made up of index funds, these are more diversified and will automatically become more conservative as you get closer to retirement. As your investing knowledge and account balance grow, you can transition to a more customized portfolio of lower-cost funds. Overall, I actually agree with a lot of what Block says. Investing in yourself is one of the best investments you can make, especially early in your career. Credit cards aren't always harmful. It may not make sense to buy a home right away. You probably don't need an investment advisor. But, as with most things, the devil is in the details. The key is to find out what works best for you. If you're the founder of an online financial company, much of Block's advice may indeed apply to you. Then again, if you're fortunate to be in that position, you probably don't need its advice. For the rest of us, don't ditch that plan B and C quite yet. You just listened to the post titled "The 5 Biggest Myths About Saving Money" by Erik Carter with financialfinesse.com. And that's going to do it for today. Hope you are having a great weekend. Thanks so much for checking in and listening, and I'll be back with you tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.